The team committed to the stories with the biggest impact in central New York, with more reporters giving you more coverage and more dedication to what matters to you. All of this only here on NBC3, working for you. NBC3 is working for you during the coronavirus pandemic, asking the questions you want answered.
What reassurance would you offer to the community that you certainly are still very much there and doing the work that they need you to do?
NBC3, working for you. Nurses blame hospital policy changes for exposing them to coronavirus.
We're willing to speak out about it because it's our lives and our family's lives that are on the line.
Our investigation links the hospital's owner to similar complaints in other states.
It has never been okay, and we need to address this now.
We question leaders.
It's not to say that there's no validity to anything anyone's saying.
And policy changes are reversed. NBC3, always working for you. A coronavirus outbreak at a farm with grave implications.
This board meeting was a quick one, and it didn't even touch on the new death we've just learned about.
Those infected living at local hotels, impacting hundreds of families.
Any loss of life related to coronavirus is heartbreaking.
A congressman watching closely.
Are you going to make sure that you follow up on that deadline?
I think everyone deserves answers and to know if any wrongdoing has occurred.
NBC3, always working for you. You're watching NBC3 News at 6.
It is the most serious outbreak of the coronavirus in central New York. Good evening, I'm Matt Mulcahy. The governor today calling Green Empire Farms in Oneida a COVID-19 hotspot. As of today, 139 workers at Green Empire Farms in Oneida and Madison County have tested positive for the virus. 151 tests are still pending. Most of them are seasonal workers. 75 of the cases are in Madison County. The other 64 are people living in Oneida County. Our Mary Keeler spoke with Madison County leaders and the company that owns the farm and has the story tonight.
300 people work here at Green Empire Farms, and nearly half of them have the coronavirus. And today, people who live in Oneida and those who have family members who work at the farm are demanding answers about how so many employees got sick. Monday and Tuesday this week, county leaders revealed the outbreak in employees, but we learned today the first case of a worker at the farm testing positive happened on March 21st. The health department did contact investigations leading them to 5 employees who worked in the same area as the infected person. They were ordered to quarantine for more than a week, and none contracted the virus. That first employee returned to work Monday and was not responsible for the current outbreak. During his daily COVID-19 briefing, Governor Cuomo acknowledged the crisis.
So what does that tell you? Well, it's not really about meat or vegetables, right? There's nothing about the fact that it was a meat processing plant, because we have a vegetable processing plant. It is about worker density and large gatherings. That's the caution flag here. That's the message. It's not about poultry. It's not about meat. It's not about vegetables. It's when you run a facility with a large number of workers in a dense environment.
I did reach out to Congressman Anthony Brindisi today. He represents Oneida, and in a statement, he did say he is aware of this outbreak, but did not offer specifics on what he would do to make sure this spread stops, other than to say he's delivering resources to upstate New York. Reporting in Oneida, I'm Mary Keeler.
Green Empire Farms, the site of Central New York's largest coronavirus outbreak, is also the focus of a you-paid-for-it investigation tonight. Good evening, I'm Matt Mulcahy.
And I'm Megan Coleman. Millions of your tax dollars are invested in keeping this produce company here. But for more than 2 weeks, the company has refused to answer any questions about an outbreak that has infected more than 170 workers, others in the community, and it is possibly being linked to one death. NBC3's Megan Bragg is holding them accountable tonight.
This is Green Empire Farms, sitting on 232 acres of land on the edge of Oneida, a sprawling network of greenhouses touted as the largest ever single build of greenhouses in North America. In these high-tech gardens, about 300 employees tend to tomatoes and other vegetables every day. More than half of them testing positive for coronavirus and living as many as 4 to a room in local hotels for months. Our You Paid For It investigation reveals taxpayers have a more than $15 million stake in this company's success. Operations here at Green Empire Farms started up in August. 10 months later, the nearly $120 million project still lacks housing for its workers that were part of the original plan. And all this development came with a promise of millions of dollars in tax breaks. We uncovered the project benefits agreement dated November 1st, 2018. In it, the Madison County Industrial Development Agency promises more than $10.3 million in tax breaks over the next 15 years. Your tax dollars also went to a $2.6 million state grant and an Excelsior tax credit worth $2.4 million. $15.3 million that you're paying for. In return, Green Empire Farms has promised 200 new full-time jobs, at least 175 construction jobs, and a combined private sector investment of $120 million. Answering questions about health and safety of workers and the community was not part of that deal.
Thank you for calling Sunset Customer Service.
Every time we try to get a hold of the company, no one calls back. We've also sent them emails and messages through social media. You can even see that someone read the message, but no one has replied. Green Empire Farms is owned by this group, Mastronardi Produce, a 70-year-old produce company headquartered in Canada, owning 6 other greenhouses in the country. In a statement published on the company's website in March, President and CEO Paul Mastronardi said in part, quote, ensuring the health and safety of our employees is our top priority. But since then, silence. Congressman Anthony Brindisi represents the very taxpayers who are directly impacted by the deals made between the county and large companies like Green Empire Farms.
The community deserves answers. Our community has seen these reports. We have friends and family that work there in the community, and we want to make sure that people are being treated accordingly. So if there is any wrongdoing by anyone involved, they need to be held accountable.
Now, we have confirmed OSHA is investigating this outbreak, and Congressman Brindisi has requested a briefing from the State Department of Agriculture and Markets. Meantime, the Madison and Oneida County communities are still waiting for answers on how all this happened.
Tomorrow night marks 1 week since 9 people were shot at a party on Syracuse's near west side. And tonight, Police Chief Kenton Buckner defends the action of his officers in how they handled the large party before the shooting. Good evening. I'm Matt Mulcahy.
I'm Megan Coleman. While there is still a great deal we do not know about the investigation, Chief Buckner is shedding more light tonight on the department's response to it. Our Amanda Chin is live in Syracuse with new details. Amanda?
Chief Kenton Buckner told me he supports how his officers decided to respond to the shooting, this Rye Day shooting this past weekend, choosing not to break up that large party, although it violates the governor's executive order over large gatherings during this pandemic. Syracuse police officers were called to the party twice before the shooting. In both instances, officers did not break it up, and Chief Kenton Buckner believes they did the right thing. The chief says leaders decided they would not criminalize this pandemic, and instead officers are advised to make contact, educate, and encourage individuals to comply with executive orders. As far as the investigation, witnesses have been helpful in sharing information, and the chief says they do have some suspects. But the department's goal to hold the shooters accountable, which ended with 9 people shot, and one of those victims, a 17-year-old who passed away.
I support how the officers handled it. If I had the ability of hindsight, we certainly would have done something maybe more aggressive with some of the people in the crowd there, but we didn't have that information at that time. I feel responsible for all crime in the city of Syracuse. That's a part of my responsibilities. It's supposed to keep me up at night. It's supposed to get me up in the morning.
And the chief also told us today part of that investigation into the shooting will also look into whether that Rye Day organizer will be facing any charges. Reporting live in Syracuse, I'm Amanda Chin.
Chief Buckner consistent with that response throughout the week now. Amanda, thank you.
The ability of Syracuse police officers to follow pandemic guidelines coming into question once again tonight. The photos you see on your screen show officers, some of them not social distancing and not wearing masks.
They were taken early this morning at the scene of a crash. And tonight, Syracuse Police Chief Kenton Buckner says he's investigating the photos we captured and then shared with the chief. Our Mary Keeler's been digging into the story today. She's live outside the police department with more. Mary?
And guys, just a few moments ago, after all day trying to get in touch for an interview with Syracuse Police Chief Kenton Buckner, we got confirmation that just after I get off the air with you, I'm going to be doing a Zoom interview with him, because tonight those photos are sparking some serious and big questions about how Syracuse police officers are going to enforce these COVID-19 restrictions on the community when some of their fellow officers aren't even following them. These images, captured by our cameras early Thursday morning at a crash in Syracuse, are now under investigation by Police Chief Kenton Buckner after we sent them to him. You can see at least 10 Syracuse police officers close together and not wearing masks. 2 officers at the same scene. One is wearing his mask under his chin. This, as Mayor Ben Walsh told me, he's working to get tough on enforcement. In 8 months, the city hasn't issued a single ticket for non-compliance with COVID-19 restrictions.
The local governments are the ones that Governor Cuomo said are in charge of enforcement. So you're committing to, say, in the next couple of days, more enforcement information will be announced.
So again, Mary, to be clear, we have enforced throughout the pandemic, but we are looking at, given the new regulations, how we are going to modify and enhance our enforcement strategy. So yes, people can expect, they don't have to wait for a formal announcement. People can expect right now that the city of Syracuse, Onondaga County, and New York State are going to enforce the regulations.
This isn't the first time Syracuse police officers have ignored the rules. At the Rite Aid party that turned deadly on Saturday, June 20th, we saw dozens of officers responding without a mask. Chief Kenton Buckner defended his officers, and so did Mayor Ben Walsh. They've also followed the rules, seen here June 5th with masks on. Chief Buckner said this in a statement to me today. Quote, the department has been very clear about the duties and responsibilities of our officers to wear their mask and practice social distancing when and where appropriate. New statewide restrictions will start tomorrow, limiting hours for restaurants, bars, and gyms to try and stop the spread of COVID-19. Gatherings in private homes are now capped at 10. Mayor Walsh says Syracuse police will start issuing tickets for people who don't comply. And a New York State executive order right from Governor Cuomo's office dated October 2nd says that any town or municipality that isn't strict enough on enforcing these restrictions for stopping the spread of COVID-19, they can be slapped with a $10,000 fine. And that's just not one time. That could be per day until they comply. And I did hear back from the New York State Health Department just a bit ago, guys, and they are working on my request for more details about what it takes to actually get a fine and if Syracuse is even close because they haven't issued any tickets to getting a fine. And Mayor Ben Walsh tonight also telling me in a statement that he hopes all city employees will rise to the occasion. Live in Syracuse, I'm Mary Keeler.
Voices of young people of color in Central New York are some of the most important in the movement happening right now. Cuse Youth Black Lives Matter is led by Syracuse high school students, and they're planning their own event. Our Amanda Hall is live downtown after speaking with members of the group. Amanda.
Megan, right now we're walking alongside of this march in the west side of Syracuse, and as you can see, he's going to show you a live look in front of me. You can see exactly what's going on right now. This has been going on for a few hours now, but like you said, I spoke with the founders of Cuse Youth BLM, who are high school students in the Syracuse City School District. They have been participating in the events and have decided to plan their own for June 12th. They are encouraging peaceful protests and said, for theirs, you are required to wear a mask, but the hope for them is to get young people around Central New York to join them.
We're the next generation. We're going to be the ones to make a change. So we don't just want adults to be out here making moves. We also want the younger generation to be advocates as well.
And we are going to keep you updated with exactly what's going on here on the west side of Syracuse. Reporting on the west side, I'm Amanda Hall.
All right, an active protest underway there tonight.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, man. We have an NBC3 follow-up tonight to our U.S. mail investigation. You watched last night as we showed you our investigative team mailing 100 envelopes in 100 different locations across Onondaga County. There were sample election ballots inside. We were testing how quickly posted items reach their destination as election time draws near. Now, the vast majority took a day or two. 99 out of 100 were back in 3 days, but one remained outstanding. Some good news tonight. That last envelope, labeled number 86, has arrived. Sometime between late Tuesday and this morning, it reached our post office box. That was more than a week after it was mailed. And the postmark did not reflect when we mailed it. We took our question to Elections Commissioner Dustin Czarny. Look at the postmark date.
Yeah.
It's August 18th, but we put in the mailbox on August 10th. So what does that mean for the Board of Elections in terms of if this was a vote and it being counted in that last week?
Yeah, in that last week is the operative term, because if this was postmarked after Election Day, that would mean that we would have to invalidate this ballot. So let's say this was put into the mail on November 1st and using the same timeline,
sure,
wasn't postmarked till November 8th, and we received it on November 9th. We have up until 10 days after Election Day, November 13th, to receive mail. However, if it has a postmark that is not timely, like this one does, we would have to set that aside and not count it. This is concerning.
Well, that emphasizes the importance of mailing your ballot early. In fact, here's that number 86 right here. The Elections Commissioner also told me tonight, after our story and hearing about sorting machines being removed from the post office in North Syracuse, he's reached out to local post office leadership to set up a meeting with the Elections Commissioners from various counties, so each side can better understand how the system will operate in the fall. One more thing, I just heard from the U.S. Postal Service in the last minute with an email. They said they have no idea where this envelope was for those 8 days, but they see that it did get a postmark on the 18th and must have got into our post office box the day after.
Since March, you've seen me conduct dozens of interviews with people touched by COVID. We've been with nurses, doctors, people struggling with long-haul symptoms, those who've recovered, and more. But I've never done an interview like this from a hospital bed, someone who is, at this moment, fighting to live. This is John Josh, in better days and in better health. The 62-year-old Oswego businessman had a headache in the middle of this month that eventually went away. Then new symptoms came on. He tested positive and planned to ride COVID out at home until yesterday when he was hospitalized. From his hospital bed on the COVID floor of Oswego Health Hospital in Oswego, John Josh is with us right now. John, hi.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm concerned about how you're doing. What are the doctors telling you about how you are right now?
Well, they're telling me that they're glad I came in for an evaluation. My left lung is not as good as my right lung. They've got me on I'm going to say it wrong, Michael, but it's remdesivir or something.
Remdesivir, yes, we've all heard of it now.
Yes, and I'm on at least a 5-day regimen of that, and today was day 2. They're also got me on a Drexicon or something. It's a steroid, and trying to help me out. And they want to put me on the plasma, the antibodies, but they said that they used to be able to get it very quickly, and now it's such a short supply. There's so many cases of the coronavirus that they're searching the country for right now. And so we'll see how that goes. It's, I tell people all the time, I feel good except when I have to do stuff. If I just lay here and watch a little TV or fall asleep, do well. But having to do things is difficult.
John, we keep hearing about the medical staff at the hospital that you're at in Oswego, at hospitals everywhere, that they're overwhelmed, that they're tired. In your interactions with the staff that are trying to get you better, can you tell that that's the case?
I would say yes, because the big thing that I'm really surprised at and very pleased with the fact is, you know, when you want a person in your room here, you press the button. They answer me on the speaker behind, and ask what you want. You tell them if they have to come into the room. Of course, they dress up and have the little vacuum pack, you know, so they're breathing fresh air and everything, you know. But they're always come in with a smile. They take care of you. They take care of me very well, and they always want to know if they can do more for me.
John, in the quiet moments of lying there in that hospital bed, what do you think of? Where does your mind go?
Well, I think that depends on the person. My mind goes to my partner. He's home alone, and I'm a caregiver. I think of him constantly, making sure and hoping that he's doing well.
Good evening and welcome to our debate. I'm Matt Mulcahy.
I'm Michael Benny. We're coming to you from Onondaga Community College. We are socially distanced, spaced out, but we will be totally relevant, I promise.
Plenty of room for everybody to stay healthy tonight while we dig into these issues. It's a true sign of the times how much coronavirus pandemic has really changed so much of our lives to the way we bring you the news each night and this debate this year.
Congressman John Katko and challenger Dana Balter, thank you both for being here for this important conversation. Republican Congressman John Katko seeking a fourth term in Washington.
And as challenger, a familiar face also, Democrat Dana Balter, looking to unseat the congressman after a narrow loss in this same race just 2 years ago. So here's the question. As the next Congress takes office in the new year, what must be sacrificed to continue to provide support to issues related to COVID? Ms. Balter, you take the question first.
I think that dealing with the COVID crisis is going to be what takes up the majority of Congress's attention for quite some time now. It is unfortunate that we're in the circumstances we're in because Donald Trump has refused to get the spread of this virus under control. We have to start with a national testing and tracing program. We have to encourage everybody across the country to wear masks. These are the best tools we have at our disposal to control the spread. And we need to make sure that we have both vaccines and treatments that are safe and effective, and that those are distributed equitably. We are in a situation where everybody is so frustrated because still millions of people have not gotten back to work. Our kids are experiencing a second year of disrupted schooling, and we hear folks asking to fully reopen the economy, which of course everybody wants, but we have to be able to do those things safely, and getting control of the spread of the virus is the first step.
Thank you, Ms. Balter. Congressman Katko, what must be sacrificed by Congress in the budget process to continue to provide the support to issues related to COVID?
So first of all, I want to commend the sacrifices that my constituents and our community have made during this COVID crisis. We have done an outstanding job of getting this under control by following the guidance that County Executive Ryan McMahon gave us, as well as the mayors and the county executives throughout my district. So I commend all of you for wearing your masks and doing the things you're supposed to do to keep the virus under control here. There's a lot of things we need to sacrifice going forward, and everything my opponent said about the things we need to do, I pretty much agree with. The bottom line is we need to get the funding there, and there is sacrifices from a budget standpoint, but really the biggest sacrifice is that we're going to have to add to the debt to do it, unfortunately. The bottom line is the bill that I put out with my colleagues from the Problem Solvers Caucus, that I'm going to talk more about in a moment, really does lay out pretty much what my opponent wants. And the ironic thing is she came out and denigrated that bill almost immediately. But the bottom line is, I'm going to move forward. We're going to move forward together, and we're going to lick this thing, and everyone's going to be better off for it. That I assure you.
You're watching Today in Central New York.
You know, we're waking up to widespread snow across our area. Good Thursday morning to you. I'm Frankie Jupiter.
And I'm Lisa Spitz. Central New York has been hit by our first major snow event of the season, and some spots have gotten much more snow than others. Right now, we're taking a look at footage that we got earlier this morning in Liverpool, Baldwinsville, and Camillus. As you can see here, parts of central New York are getting a good amount of snow, but southern parts of our region, well, they have gotten hit a lot harder. Multiple schools here in central New York are closed or delayed this morning, and we have those closures and delays running right now at the bottom of your screen, and they are also on our website at cnycentral.com. We are going to be bringing you team coverage all morning long of the snow. We have our Weather Authority 1 vehicle out on the roads. We have our photojournalist, Dennis Harmon. He is driving around so that you know what to expect before you head out the door. We're tracking those road conditions for you this morning.
That's right. Our Brandon Roth is live on the ground in Cortland, taking a look at all that snow firsthand.
But first, we have Weather Authority meteorologist Peter Hawley is your bus stop forecast for those who do have school today, and also details on this weather alert, Pete.
And many people still have to go to work this morning, so let's get right to it. Winter storm warnings continue to the south and east. Winter weather advisory for Onondaga County, other central New York counties up north. There's no advisory because of a lot less snow. Things have worked out reasonably well for most of central New York. Down south and east, a lot more snow than I expected, but we're sitting right now with 4.5 inches in Syracuse, and I think we get another inch or two. I said 3 to 6. I think we're going to wind up with 6 and be fine. There's 9 inches in Ithaca, about 21 inches, though, in Whitney Point, and then the Weather Service office, which is just north of Johnson City, right here, has had 36 inches of snow and counting. This is the corridor where there's been extreme snow. That one band right there, that's nearly unforecastable. But the rest of central New York is right as expected with that steady snow. Again, though, furthest southeast, especially Broome, Tioga, and Shenango counties, basically fringe to southeast of our viewing area. It is a mess down there with 2 to 3 feet of snow or more. New information about our weather next.
And we continue our weather team coverage this morning, now taking a look at just how hard the snow is falling.
Our Brandon Roth is in Cortland this morning. Brandon, we see that snow coming down. What are the roads like, and what is that snow texture like right now?
Well, the roads are actually, within the last half hour or so, starting to get a little better. We've actually seen a plow go by. As for the texture of snow, it's a good question. The good news about this snowfall, take a look here. Craig will get a shot. This is really light, powdery snow, not wet, heavy snow that can make it really hard for the roads to get froze over and also to shovel. So if you got to, the plows should be able to take care of this. Just give them a chance to get out there. If you got to go out and shovel, that could be some good news, too.
The Jim and Julie Boeheim Foundation presents the 2020 Basketball Live. Now, here are your hosts, Jim and Julie Boeheim.
Welcome to our house. Thank you for joining us. This night would not be possible without the incredible team at NBC3.
That's right. You know, we didn't want to cancel in the middle of such a crisis and with such an important need in our community and our world as we're all going through this together. And we're just so thankful that NBC3 stepped up and made this possible. We would usually be at Turning Stone tonight, dancing to prime time, having a great time up close and personal with all of you. But here we are, all dressed up, nowhere to go, home together. Alone.
19th annual Many Hearts at Home celebration on NBC3. Here are your hosts, Megan Coleman and Farah Jadran.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Tonight, we honor Central New York families facing incredible odds, and we celebrate the organization that helps keep them together. I'm Megan Coleman.
And I'm Farah Jadran. We're here to recognize an organization in Central New York that's impacted so many families, the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Central New York.
And this year, perhaps more than ever before, it's the people at this amazing home away from home who are making a difference in our community. The Ronald McDonald House was founded on the idea that families should not have to focus on anything else when caring for a sick child. For 38 years, the house has made countless families feel supported and loved, giving them warm meals and a place to stay while their children receive life-saving medical treatments here in Syracuse. The COVID-19 pandemic changed everything about all of our lives.
And the house had to adapt too. It temporarily closed and moved its guests to a nearby hotel, but opened up to a whole new need, helping the men and women fighting on the front lines of the pandemic in our local hospitals.
Breaking tonight, the NCAA tournament won't be the same, and that's not even the worst case scenario. Good evening, I'm Nico Tamurian. The NCAA will not allow the general public to attend March Madness games with this rapid spread of coronavirus. First and foremost, we have to talk about this NCAA tournament news. No fans in the arena. I mean, you played in 3 NCAA tournaments. Yes. Can you think about what that would be like?
Yes, I have, because I've done it.
Let it serve as a reminder. We've actually made it 2 months so far. And if you said we'd have no sports and the other luxuries we've been without for the last 60+ days back in March, I don't know if I would fully grasp it back then, Matt, but we did it.
I love swimming. I've been swimming since I was probably like 4. It's almost like an escape, I guess. I was with my brother and I was just like looking out the window and I was like, oh, I should totally go swim. Like, it can't be that bad, right? It's just a pond. Your sport is what you love, and when you can't do that, it's like a break from, you know, being in the house, all the chaos. There was a frog that was in there one time. So swimming is almost like an addiction. Like you have it. I was swimming 5 days a week, so you have it almost every day, and when you can't do that, it's kind of like you're missing like a big piece of you.
The Syracuse offense flowing like the mighty waters of a New York river. Good evening, I'm Nico Tamurian, live in the Salmon River, and I think the comparison is fair. You consider Syracuse's run game like the running waters we see here, and of course the raw power that we have here in the Salmon River of Pulaski. Consider the orange exploding. CDC guidelines say wearing a mask is one of the best ways to keep coronavirus away, so you knew Coach Q would take this to a whole new level.
I said, hey, do you think if I buy some fabric, you can make me some mask? And his head just dropped like, oh, here we go.
When life hands you lemons, wear the best masks in town.
Put the little border around it, and this was kind of the beginning.
How you doing? Here you go. I just want to hand this to you, man.
Thank you.
No problem, man.
You're amazing.
I appreciate it.
You're amazing. You're an angel.
I appreciate you, man. Yeah, we're trying to help out the Qs, man. We're all in it together, so.
You're watching NBC3 News at 6.
It's been the push across the country to open back up. Good evening, I'm Matt Mulcahy.
And I'm Megan Coleman. It is a different story in every state. And in our case, every region has a different story. There are 9 benchmarks each region of the state has to make in order to start phase 1 of reopening.
Central New York failed to meet each of the governor's 7 tests. However, Onondaga County Executive Ryan McMahon says, don't worry, the county is just about to meet that requirement. Amanda Chin joins us live in Syracuse tonight with a look at what opening up could look like. Amanda?
The county executive is very confident Central New York will be allowed to start phase 1 by the end of this week. Ryan McMahon believes this restart is critical to get the economy going and says he understands the level of anxiety many are feeling. The county executive is very comfortable with the plan laid out by the state. He understands the reopening phase needs to be in a safe and controlled manner, but says if the economy starts to reopen, minimizing other effects like mental health will be very important. Now, what will drive the next phases? The health data.
Hopefully we don't see spikes. We go from phase 1 to phase 2, and then phase 2 to phase 3, and then, you know, phase 4 essentially is we return to what the new normal will be. But part of that new normal will continue to be physical distancing and different things that are just going to be what life is like. And that's just, we'll be smarter because we've lived through the COVID-19 pandemic.
And he also wants to emphasize when things do start to reopen, maintaining that social distance, wearing a mask, and continuing to follow those safety protocols. We all need to keep at it. Reporting live in Syracuse, I'm Amanda Chin.
Yeah, our work really in many ways is just beginning now, Amanda. Thank you. There's been a lot of debate on which types of businesses are allowed to reopen under phase 1. Here's the broad strokes. Non-essential construction, manufacturing will be allowed to start back up. Plus, businesses related to agriculture, fishing and hunting, and forestry. Retail trade can start, but only for curbside pickup and delivery.
For a full list of the types of businesses expected to open during phase 1, go to our website, cnycentral.com. 6 nurses who work inside the special COVID-19 unit at St. Joseph's Hospital in Syracuse are sounding the alarm tonight, saying they were diagnosed with the coronavirus after a policy change went into effect.
The hospital, though, has now reversed course and insists the nurses contracted the virus outside of the workplace. Lauren Khalil reports.
Some nurses at St. Joe's Hospital who spoke to us say they've been treating COVID-19 patients since March, and none of them got sick. But they say that changed when the hospital announced new procedures at the end of April. Since then, the nurses say 6 of their colleagues contracted COVID-19.
The nurses are unhappy, and we're willing to speak out about it because it's our lives and our families' lives that are on the line.
We're protecting the identity of one of the nurses because those who've complained to us fear retaliation. The nurses say the hospital told them it was no longer necessary to wear N95 masks and that surgical masks would suffice. They further blame a change in the hospital's airflow system at the end of April and believe it contributed to 6 of them getting sick.
They took down the negative pressure unit, which helps drop the particles from the air immediately to the floor so they're not suspended in the air. And they took away our N95s.
The nurses say the mood among them in the COVID unit has been angry as more of them test positive. Hospital leaders insist the majority of staff who contracted the virus did so in the community, not at work.
I really, well, a couple things. Well, I don't want to talk about specific people who've contracted the virus. It's actually an epidemic, and the disease is everywhere, and people are at risk to contract it. That's not to say that there's no validity to anything anyone's saying, but nobody's specifically, I've been part of any of those conversations.
We started asking questions on Monday. On Tuesday, St. Joseph's confirms it's now reinstituting the negative pressure airflow throughout the COVID unit and has always taken personal protective equipment for staff seriously and done so according to guidance from national and state agencies. But the nurses see this as a cause and effect.
1 week later, we had our first positive. The day after that, we had our second positive. 2 days later, we had 4 positives. And then over the weekend, we had 2 more tests positive.
Another nurse who says she's tested positive and is recovering at home is upset that the hospital is so convinced the virus was contracted off the job. I'm not sure at what point I was exposed, she says, but I'm near next to positive. It was from the hospital. As a nurse that works with COVID positive patients, I felt it to be my duty to take the social distancing to the next level, having my husband run to the store instead of me, eating leftovers as much as possible, cooking at home.
6 nurses down, and that's 6 nurses too many. Over a simple policy change that, yeah, it's more expensive, but the bottom line is we felt safe going to work.
This is hard work every single day. So it's easier to, the more we do it, it's easier to get frustrated with the conditions that we've been given. We want to make sure we're doing everything we can to help them. And we really feel like we have and do on an every single day basis.
Now, the 2 nurses that we've been in contact with say that there are other staff members who work in the COVID-19 unit who right now are waiting on test results. Hospital leaders and spokespeople tell us that the recent change back to negative pressure rooms was made in response to a state directive that has them preparing to take in more nursing home patients. It says that it went back to that negative pressure room to make the air droplets fall to the ground rather than spray out to accommodate any expected increase in those nursing home patients. In the studio, I'm Lauren Khalil.
All right, Lauren, thank you. Let's go over to Wayne now. Check on your weather forecast. Wayne, we have a weather alert tonight.
We do again, and it's the same alert that we've talked about 24 hours ago and almost every day for the past week. It's just way too cold tonight. So once again, all these counties in blue, freeze warning up for tonight. And we're probably going to do it one more time tomorrow night as well. So just want to alert you of that. Then the pattern will start to change as we've been promising. Here's a look at right now, some little precipitation, live triple Doppler radar brought to you by Falso Service Experts. A few few light rain showers, a few sprinkles, a few flurries working on through right now. We'll do that over the next 2, 3, 4 hours from a weak disturbance. And then once that disturbance moves by, skies will clear. And yes, the temperatures will fall off again to record or near record levels. So for tomorrow, we're going to start out chilly, but I think we've got a day coming up tomorrow with a lot of sunshine. 34 degrees at 7 in the morning, 53 for your afternoon high. Here's a look outside. Stay in the Lost Sky Watch overlooking the city. And this is from our Adirondack Furniture camera, where the sky is overcast and every once in a while seeing a couple of sprinkles or wet flurries. I'll be back with a lot more on that warm-up we've been promising. All that on the way.
Wayne, thank you. Up next, an NBC3 exclusive. For the first time, we're hearing from the security officer credited with saving a family during a shooting at the bus and train station in Syracuse over the weekend. He takes us through those moments of terror.
And the husband of a Super 8 employee dies from COVID-19. The same Super 8 where workers from the largest outbreak in the region are living. What did Madison County have to say or not say about it? We'll tell you. Welcome back to NBC3 News at 6.
Our reporting has been focused on the fallout after more than half of the workers at Green Empire Farms in Oneida tested positive for COVID-19.
Workers are living in 3 hotels between Madison and Oneida counties, and most are living at times 4 to a room. We've learned an employee of the Super 8 hotel in Oneida tested positive for the virus, and then her husband did too. He died last Thursday. The same hotel where some of the COVID-19 positive workers were staying, that's where she was working. NBC3's Mary Keeler was inside the Madison County Board meeting held this afternoon where the death didn't even come up. Mary?
Well, yeah, this board meeting was a quick one, and it didn't even touch on the new death we've just learned about 5 days after it happened. Instead, board members took that opportunity to defend their health department.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Immediately after the Pledge of Allegiance and roll call.
Didn't have to have a mask on at all because he wasn't within 6 feet of anybody. Answering questions for the television reporter, and this is what we get for it.
Madison County Chairman of Supervisors John Becker brought up backlash from a caller who had a problem with how Public Health Director Eric Feist wore his mask while doing a video chat interview with me yesterday. He played part of the call for the board.
With a mask over his mouth, but not over his nose. Is this guy representing the health department? He's right there on public television spreading the virus.
Becker then went on to complain about negative Facebook comments and more backlash they received over how and why the largest outbreak in central New York happened in Madison County. He said that the public health director and his team have been working nonstop.
Our people are working as hard as they can. We're doing the best we can, and they're doing a damn good job. We did what we were supposed to last week. We got those people off the street. We got them in isolation and quarantine. They'll get better, and they're going to go back out to work, what they're here for.
There were no questions about the outbreak, and nothing more was said on the issue. Instead, before going into executive session, Becker said they need to focus on reopening.
And I suspect we will be opening on Friday, and we're going to move forward as a county.
It's unclear if the board talked any more about the death we've just learned about today in that executive session after the public portion of the meeting. But what we do know is 71% of the farm workers that were infected with COVID-19 have recovered. Live in Wampsville, I'm Mary Keeler.
Mary, did they happen to give a reason for going into executive session, or did they just do it as what they would call like a normal course of business?
It was just like it was a normal course of business. They went through some resolutions, talked about some different just county matters, and then they had partially on Zoom, and then some of the board members were socially distanced throughout the board chambers properly. But yeah, they just went in like it was a normal board meeting to executive session, which of course that means media has to go out. That live stream also had to stop.
And it also means it violates the law if they don't give a reason for going into executive session. We'll have to look into that now, too. Thank you. Next on NBC3 News at 6, an exclusive interview with the security guard credited with protecting children from a shooting at the train and bus station this weekend.
A live look over Syracuse. We are well below normal, but will we inch up to some warmer temperatures this week? Wayne will let us know.
To an NBC3 exclusive tonight. It's a scary thought. What do you do when there's an active shooter?
Onondaga County District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick is calling one of the victims from Sunday's shooting at the Regional Transportation Center a true hero. Tommy Sladak got to talk to the victim about his life-saving actions.
It's like real dry when he was talking to me, so it kind of made me feel uncomfortable. So I kept my eye on him.
Jothil Selman had just started his shift working security at the Regional Transportation Center early Sunday morning when he says the suspect, now identified as Andrew Booker, started acting irritated after mechanical issues on a bus halted his trip. Selman says when another bus unloaded at the hub, Booker just started firing his gun.
He literally starts shooting at them. He's shooting at random people now.
In the midst of the scramble, Selman says a father and his young kids ran up to him asking for help. The 29-year-old guided them to a room with a code-locked door.
I punched the code in. I got him and his two babies in there, and his last baby ended up going in there. But as I turned around, the gunman is literally right there face to face with me. And I asked him a question. I'm like, yo, what's your problem? Like, what's going on?
Selman says the suspect mumbled and shot twice, hitting him once in the abdomen. He wasn't wearing a vest at the time. After a brief tussle, Selman says Booker's gun jammed, sending him away to reload. On the other side of the building, Selman says Booker spots him again. Only this time, the security guard brandishes his concealed firearm, a move he says made the suspect hesitate, likely saving lives.
I had to think smart, and at the end of the day, I'm still bleeding out.
Seconds later, law enforcement arrived, quickly detaining the suspect. Selman is now recovering, still sore from his injury and surgery. And if you were to have known going into it that protecting the family meant getting shot, would you have still done it?
Automatically. As soon as I hear the gunshots, my priority is not running. My priority is grabbing whoever I can grab. If I had a kid, I would want somebody to save my kid like that, too.
As for Andrew Booker, the Massachusetts native has an extensive criminal past, including an arrest less than 2 months ago. Even though he was facing a slew of charges there, Booker was let go on $200 bail. The Wareham District Court says Booker still hasn't been arraigned for that arrest due to COVID-19, an alarming example of how this pandemic has impacted the way justice is served. I'm Tommy Sladak reporting.
Well, we have a weather alert tonight, Megan, but we also have warmer weather coming in the forecast at last.
Oh, Wayne, we've been waiting for this.
Oh, I know, and we're long overdue for this. I mean, it has been weeks now where we've had temperatures at or colder than normal for the most part, almost every day, at or below normal. All the warmth has been out in the west, but now the pattern is starting to change, and we're going to find that we're going to have temperatures a lot better in the next couple of days. Here's what's going on right now, and I don't know if you can see it. We got some flurries out here on the deck. Live triple Doppler radar brought to you by Falso Service Experts. We got an area of some light sprinkles, light rain showers, and yes, some flurries working on through central New York and the Finger Lakes. That's a very minor disturbance. So over the next few hours, 2, 3, 4 hours, that'll work its way on through. Once this works on by, then the skies will clear and the temperatures will fall off again, which is the reason that once again, we're talking about a freeze warning up for most of the area for tonight, just like last night and many nights before that, freeze or frost alerts. And temperatures tonight that may be close to a record low once again. So let's look ahead then. Yes, the pattern is about ready to change to a moderating pattern. 2 more cold nights tonight and again tomorrow night. Again tomorrow night, be aware there might be a freeze warning again, and then temperatures gradually warming up starting on Thursday. Here's a little tease for you. The next 5 days, keep in mind the normal high temperature is 68, 53 for tomorrow, 64 degrees Thursday, 65 Friday, 69 degrees, maybe 70 on Saturday, 65 degrees on Sunday. And the overall pattern is doing a 180 from what we had talked about for weeks. Now it looks like through the middle and the end of May, all the colder than normal weather is going to be out in the west, and we're out here in the east, and we're going to start warming up the temperatures at or a little bit warmer than normal. So better news for us. Forecast then tonight, sprinkles, flurries around will exit after 8 or 9 o'clock. Then skies will clear, a little patchy fog, some frost develops, low tonight 30. And then for tomorrow, if you like a day with a lot of sunshine, you're going to like tomorrow. Mostly sunny tomorrow, just a lot of sunshine coming up tomorrow. Obviously a chilly start and still chilly during the day, but We'll get there. Enjoy the sun tomorrow. High temperature tomorrow, 53 degrees. Futurecast hour by hour for you. Skies clear up nicely for the overnight tonight. Here's the way we start out tomorrow morning, 7, 8 o'clock with a lot of sunshine. Sunshine all day long tomorrow. And then increasing clouds later on tomorrow night. A couple of scattered showers in here by the end of the day on Thursday. 7-day weather outlook. 53 tomorrow, 64 degrees with some late afternoon showers on Thursday. And then the warm front comes in, bringing in even warmer air. Showers and scattered thunderstorms appear likely Thursday night and Friday. Friday, 65. Right now, early outlook for the weekend. Saturday would be your pick day. Sunshine, scattered clouds, 69, maybe 70. Showers, maybe a thunderstorm Sunday, 65. Look outside. Stanley Law Sky Watch overlooking the city from our Destiny USA camera. And yes, we've got flurries falling. That's the latest from the weather outside.
Thank you. Right next in sports, with sports on hiatus, the captain of the Syracuse Crunch is looking at the silver lining. Sports director Nico Tamurian joins us with that story.
Syracuse football on a roll on the recruiting trail. I'm Nico Tamurian. You would think that with no visits allowed, the Orange and other college teams may be suffering on that front. Not Syracuse, almost 10 new commitments all in the last month. The new one today is Landon Morris, receiver from New Jersey. And what's unique about him, he picked the Orange over several college powers, including the Michigan Wolverines. That's impressive. Now, last week, the NCAA paved the way to completely change the game, setting up a vote no later than January on name, image, and likeness. You probably get the gist of it, right? Athletes can be paid certain amounts of money for their brand while still in college under this legislation. But what does it really mean down the line?
We'll empower our current athlete base to be able to monetize their brand.
Jim Cavell, a Syracuse native, started Influencer over 2 years ago to help college athletes harness their social media impact.
People follow people more than they follow brands. So sports-wise, the people are athletes. And athletes have become channels because of social media, but they need content. And we started Influencer to help athletes so that they can share that content to social, build their audience, tell their story.
Influencer ahead of its time and well aware of what's really going to change in college athletics.
It was a really tough undertaking. The NIL working group had to come up with a framework of regulation recommendations for all 3 divisions, which are completely different from one another. No group licensing, which means that for the athlete that doesn't have as big of a brand or following, they're not going to be able to really have a lot of opportunities because by themselves, they're not worth too much. But in a group, they could be. I think that's really going to hurt female athletes and lower sport, non-revenue sport athletes. And so I think you're going to see a lot of lobbying for group licensing and more school involvement to allow for more athletes to have more opportunity.
One thing nobody's talking about that could be the largest impact.
I think the place where things matter now, regardless of where the regulations finalize in January 2021, is recruiting. Those kids and parents are now asking them, and this is every sport, every level, how are you going to help my son or daughter be able to get the most out of their name, image, and likeness experience? And in Syracuse basketball, this is going to be big because you look at a guy like Dior Johnson, who's coming in, 500,000 plus followers on Instagram, right? Instagram alone, he has an opportunity to make somewhere in the $500,000 range. So that's going to play into this now in recruiting in this 2021 class. And I think it's a really, really important topic. Every sport, every level.
Appreciate that perspective. Interesting to watch. Now we'll switch gears to the Syracuse Crunch. That's their captain, Luke Witkowski. And obviously Luke wants to be back on the ice, right? And it's been tough. It's our first time hearing from him since the season was canceled, let alone suspended in March. But he's looking at the silver lining, more time with his newborn daughter.
The hockey is obviously in the back of my mind, but I think health and safety of my family is kind of number one right now. I've been pretty fortunate with the sleep schedule. It's definitely been a silver lining that in all of this that I get to see her grow up. And in her first 3 months, 4 months, however long it's going to take, I'm right here with her the whole way. And I would normally get all of that time with.
Great perspective from Luke. We appreciate seeing that. Matt, back to you.
It is nice to see that. That's heartwarming information. Thanks, Nico. We'll see you tonight for NBC 3 News at 11. I'm Matt Mulcahy. Have a great night. See you then.